Hello everyone and welcome to my video. Today we are doing a in-depth review of Pepper Basham's Positively Penelope. I wanted to have this video ready by around the debut time, but I'm about a month late because life. But I'm super excited to talk about this book. So the first time I read this book was back in April. I got an advanced reader copy from NetGalley and I gave it 5 stars. I put that review up on my Instagram way back in April. If you want to look at that review, you can click on the link over at my Instagram. But I went ahead and I reread this book at the beginning of September so that it could be fresh in my mind for this kind of release day video, even though I know release day was like a month ago because y'all. Y'all. Anyway, so I'm actually really glad that I reread it because it gave me even more things to love than the first time I read it. And so let's go ahead and get started talking about it. What can I say? This is just 100% a 5-star read. The first book in the series, Authentically Izzy, was also a 5-star read. I loved them both so much. And you know, the funny thing is that I always felt like Izzy is like the person I am, like super shy, bookworm, really good at kind of like, you know, scholastic-y kind of like, I'm really good at history and English, but, you know, getting out there and talking to people, not a strong suit. So like, I felt like Izzy was like who I am, but I felt like Penelope is like who I've always wanted to be. Like Penelope is this really, really energetic kind of person. She's so happy and so joyful all the time, and the best thing about Penelope is that she knows how to make people feel loved. And I think that's the real trick, because sometimes you meet those like really, really perky and energetic people and you're like, oh my goodness, this is exhausting. And Penelope's not like that, and the reason that she's not like that is because her joy and her energy comes from encouraging others and making others see the best in themselves, and that's just so amazing. That's the person that I've always wanted to be. I've always wanted to be that person that encourages others, and plus she breaks out into song, and who doesn't love that? I am a huge musical fan myself. I love old musical movies. I love Broadway musicals. I love musicals so much. I cannot carry a tune. I sing like a dying cat, but if I could sing, I'd be like Penelope over here breaking out into show tunes all the time, but I can't, and it would be like really mean of me to subject others to that. So, but yeah, I love Penelope, and she's always like been that person that I've always wanted to be. So that's really, really cool. And of course, in this book, Penelope, our lovely, lovely protagonist, she just graduated with a theater degree, and she gets an internship over in the islands of Skymar, which we were introduced to in Authentically Izzy. And so she is spending a few months interning at a theater in Skymar, and it's called the Darling House. It's super, super cute. It's called the Darling House because the people that started it loved Peter Pan, and they performed Peter Pan every year, and that's like super cute. And the Darling House is owned and run by the Gray family. So there's Grandpa Gray, and then there is his grandchildren, his 3 grandchildren. Unfortunately, Grandpa Gray's wife and daughter both died in the previous few years before this book started, and his son-in-law got remarried and left. His son-in-law, wasn't really into the theater because he married into that. So the wife and the daughter were both really big parts of the theater, and they passed away. So it's just Grandpa Gray and his 3 grandkids. You have Alec, Mateo, and Gwen. Gwen is in her last year of business school, so she's kind of in and out of the story. And Alec and Mateo are both working at the theater. Grandpa Gray, since his wife and daughter died, has become kind of a recluse, and he's not really leaving the house much. And then Mateo has a 7-year-old daughter. Iris is her name. So those are kind of like the core cast members of this, and this is everyone who Penelope meets when she comes over to Skymar Island. So her big plot is that the theater's kind of been going downhill since the women's death, and also the family has been dealing with grief all this time, so she has to really both help save the family and both help save the theater and help the family members feel loved. You know, she gets Grandpa Gray out of the house, and she is a role model to Iris, and she is friends with all three of the siblings. So yeah, it's just a really sweet book, and it's a really sweet story, but it's also like really fun. So I gave it 5 stars. Now, the next part of this video, we're going to go a little bit more in depth, so there are going to be some spoilers. So if you've already read it, or you're one of those people that don't care about spoilers, you're all out there, let's go. If you don't like spoilers and you haven't read it yet, go ahead and stop right here. Let me just tell you, it's 5 stars. I definitely recommend it. Turn off the video. If you're cool with spoilers, let's go. Okay. So one thing about this book that I will say is that, like, there's kind of like a mole that's feeding information, like her marketing ideas from the theater into their rival theater across town. And I have to say, like, I don't know about y'all who read this book, but I knew from the beginning that the mole was Alec. Like, I don't know what it was, but it's just like the way they started describing it, it just seemed kind of obvious to me from the beginning. Like, especially as it went on, like, they didn't figure out that he was the mole till, you know, the last third of the book or so, but I just feel like that was very, very obvious. That he was the mole, like, it was really clear, but at the same time, I didn't really ding the narrative any points for making it obvious, because I didn't really feel like the mystery was that big a part of the narrative. Like, it was there, but it wasn't the point, you know? So I just wanted to put that out there and be like, yeah, it was obvious, we all saw that coming, but, like, I don't care, because that wasn't the main point of the story. What I do want to say is that, like, I just loved Penelope and Mateo, their relationship, and it really is kind of, it's almost like an enemies to lovers type thing. I mean, they weren't really enemies per se, but they didn't necessarily like each other. It's definitely a grumpy sunshine trope, but I would say it's also a little bit an enemies to lovers trope. But yeah, I just really enjoyed them together. I felt like they brought out the best in each other. Like, he brought out a level of maturity in here, which she had the maturity. It's just that not a lot of people really saw it, because it's hard to see maturity when you're looking at that kind of energetic and effusive personality. But he saw it and he brought it out. And she brought out the kind of passion and fun-lovingness in him that he had lost when he lost his mother and his divorce and everything. And so I just felt like they were really good for each other, and I just loved them as a couple. And also, y'all, if you saw, so Pepper Basham posted on her Instagram, like, kind of her artistic drawings or inspiration for these characters. And can I just say, her artistic inspiration for Mateo is so cute. I'm sorry, he's, like, super, super cute. I imagined him being cute in the book, and he's cute in the illustration. So I just want to throw that out there. But it's really interesting to see, especially with Penelope kind of stepping in as this mother figure for Iris. I mean, obviously, Mateo has a 7-year-old daughter, and Penelope herself is just graduating college. She did take a gap year, so I guess she's like 23 to 24. I think she has her 24th birthday in this book. But still, like, this 24-year-old stepping in as, like, a future mother figure for, like, a 7-year-old girl, I think they handled that really well. And one of the reasons is that, like, we really saw Penelope's maturity not only grow throughout the book, but really come out throughout the book, the maturity that she already had. And so it kind of showed us that she could be that mother figure to Iris. And I felt like that was really important in the narrative, because a lot of times when you have younger, energetic characters, it's kind of hard to imagine them as a mother figure. But it was really nice that I felt like Basham handled that really well, and that she showed Penelope could be a mother figure to Iris. So I thought that was really good. The final thing that I really wanted to dive into in this book, which I think can be a little surprising for readers, is that this is such, like, a light and happy book. But one thing that I think the book handles as a heavier subject is grief. You know, the whole family is grieving the deaths of Grandma Gray and the three siblings' mother. I'm not sure it ever actually names them in the book, so I don't know their names, but both those women have died in the last few years, and Mateo has lost his wife in the last few years, and Penelope also lost her childhood best friend to cancer when she was in high school, which was the reason that she took a gap year. And those griefs are addressed in this book. Kind of a big plot line of the book is how the different family members handle the grief. You know, for Mateo, he went into his shell and he really focused on only Iris and the accounting business. He stopped dancing, he stopped having fun, he stopped laughing. For Alec, he just wanted out of the business because of all the memories. So he started selling business secrets to the enemy. Not very good. For Grandpa Gray, he was so steeped in grief that he became a recluse in the house. So they all deal with grief in different ways, and that's a big part of the plot. And Penelope, after having her own grief of losing her best friend, kind of helps them because she's gone through it. And I felt like that was really handled very well. It's something that really jumped out to me in this reread because my own family has dealt with a little bit of grief this past month. A extended family member passed away quite suddenly in a car accident, and we had the memorial service at the beginning of the month. And then the day after I went to the memorial service, I found out that my aunt, who I was very close to growing up, was put on hospice. So then that was another thing that hit me really hard. So it's been a very tearful month for my family, and it's one of those things where, like, you not only have the death, but then you have what follows after. You know, there's all these conversations, and it's not necessarily even about the death itself. It's about, like, oh, well, I talked to this person and they're, you know, doing this, or I talked to this person and they're feeling this way, because there's all these different people involved that are grieving differently. And so when you have that communication, you know, and it goes on, it's really hard to see the people you love grieving so much. And so for me, when I was rereading this book and I was like reading the parts about the grief and about how they related to each other in the grief, and how they had to learn to understand how each other handled their grief, I felt like that really impacted me on this reread. And so the first time I read it, I don't know, like, that just didn't impact me as much, probably because I wasn't going through this thing, or my family wasn't. But, like, so the first time that I read it way back in April on NetGalley, you know, what really hit me was how fun it was and lighthearted, and how it was so cheerful, and how it made my heart feel good. And it still did all that on this reread, but I felt like it hit a lot deeper on this reread because of what my family has gone through this month, the people I love have gone through this month, and how that it handles such a similar thing. And so it made me think, like, I just wanted to say, like, if any of you guys, if your loved ones are going through grief, or if you are, like, this is such a light-hearted and happy read, but at the same time it handles that grief, and I think that it really helped me, so it might really help you. So those were the main points that I wanted to make about Positively Penelope. Like, and I know these videos aren't very long, but I just wanted to point out those few things, and I want to know, what did you guys think? Did you guys enjoy reading it? Have you read it yet? Are you going to read it? I would definitely recommend it. Yeah. So that is my review of Positively Penelope. I would definitely recommend it. I gave it 5 stars. I'd give it more if I could, and yeah, one of my favorite books of the year, I have to say. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.